Call the meeting to order. Those who care to, please rise for an opening prayer and a salute to our flag. Thank you, sir. Who would bow your heads with me? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for the time we get to spend together. Thank you for the city and blessing it. Thank you for blessing the citizens and the leaders and these council members. Allow them to make the decisions that you want them to make. Be with us as we go throughout this week. Thank you for all the things you've given us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two mayor's announcements, appointments, and vote items. However, I'm going to add a third. Mr. Harder has a birthday coming up. No, I don't. Oh, yeah, you do.
Just passed.
Had one.
Had one.
You're going to have another one.
In about a year.
Well, here it is. Happy birthday, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor.
All the money that we can spare is in there. Sweet! You'll find three $3 bills and a $4 bill. There he is. So.
Shake it out.
Happy birthday to Mr. Harder. I'm not going to tell you how old he is, even though he graduated in 1982. Isn't that right, Charlie?
That's right.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. On to other business. Mr. Grooms, are you here? Yes, you need to come forward and put chalk on the chief.
He's not going to save you tonight.
Yeah, trust me. I got this one. They promised a roast. Oh, trust me. We'll even grill burgers for you. I would like to, thank you for your time here. I didn't get a chance to do that last time. I think you were out of town. I was out of town last time, and I know I appreciate your input. Certainly going to miss you, even though I know you're only a phone call away, and you call me a lot. So I'm sure we'll talk soon. But I certainly appreciate all the things you've done. You've been in 3 out of the 4 wards? Just 2 out of the 4 wards. Okay, that's enough, I think. But I know I appreciate your input in meetings, appreciate your concern for the citizens, appreciate your outlook on things and moving forward. And I just want to recognize you. I think we have some stuff for you.
That's over there.
And that's over there. I'm going to grab that and present that to you. It has both times you were on there.
Hopefully, yeah, he's working.
And this, Mr. Grooms, keep that in honor. I didn't mark on it.
I have enough of these to build a small storage shed.
And this is one of our last old Republic flags.
A collector's item.
Yes, it is. And Mr. Grooms did just let everybody know, move out of the city, much to our disliking. We tried to talk him out of that place a couple different times, but it didn't work. But I'm going to miss you, Shane. I think council members will as well, and I know the citizens are definitely going to be missing your input and how you look at things, and I certainly appreciate that. So, thank you. With that, some big shoes to fill. However, looking around Ward 3, I would like to recommend Mr. Ron Hutchinson. Ron, would you please stand just to let everybody know? Show the flag. I would like to recommend Mr. Hutchison for Ward 3 council member to replace Mr. Grooms in his seat. I would like a recommendation for that, for a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Ron Hutchison, would you please come up? We're going to have Brenda swear you in, sir.
All right.
right hand and repeat after me, filling in the blank with your name, please. I blank,
I, Ron Hutchison,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess all the qualifications
that I possess all the qualifications
described for my office
described for my office
by law,
by law,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Missouri,
and of the state of Missouri,
the provisions of all laws
the provisions of all laws
of this state
of this state
affecting cities of this class,
affecting cities of this class,
and the ordinances of the city of Republic,
and the ordinances of the city of Republic,
and that I will faithfully demean myself in office.
and I will faithfully demean myself in office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's the name tag.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hutchison has sat on our planning and zoning board before, so he is familiar with some of the things that we do in the City of Republic, including planning and zoning and all other aspects that we have. Mr. Hutchison brings a wealth of information and knowledge from his previous jobs and some of the things in his past history, and I look for big things out of Mr. Hutchison, just like we did Mr. Grooms. So welcome aboard,
All
sir.
right. Thank you.
And there is items there that on the agenda that you may or may not want to vote on. It'll be totally up to you.
Okay.
Since you're seeing some of this stuff maybe for the first time, it'll be totally up to you on how you look at things and view things, but feel free to ask any questions at any time that you would like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No public hearing. I'd like to open it up now to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, sign in, and give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, citizen participation closed. Moving on to the consent agenda, would like to have a motion on the consent agenda. Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
Here.
One abstain. Motion carries 701. Thank you. On the financial report, welcome Ms. Guy Rice. Please give us an overview of the financial report.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
What you're seeing in front of you, all I can say is it's positive for both the sales tax. The sales tax that was collected in the month of March is way positive, way more positive than it was for last year at that time. And so it has brought the year-to-date growth up quite a bit. It'd be nice to be able to sustain that for the rest of the year. And the motor fuel tax collection saw an increase for the month of April, and we are well on our way to meeting our budget for motor fuel tax.
Questions, comments, discussion for Ms. Guy Rice? Anything at all? Seeing none, need a motion to approve financial report? Motion. Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? 7-0. Motion carries 701. Mr. Krischke, you have anything, sir?
Nothing?
Mr. Derrickson?
No, sir.
All right, fantastic. Future community events? Mr. Keeling, as the chief content concentrator, this is the second time I've had to,
Distracting.
as usual.
First of all, I want to say that
Future community
the Aquatic Center is open for business. We opened last Saturday. A little cool, but we still had a good weekend. We open at noon daily. We'll be open daily operations all the way through the middle of August. So.
Awesome, very good.
May 31st, June 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th is Toddler Storytime at 10:30 a.m. It's a free event, and that's held right here at the Republic Community Center. June 3rd is Tier Republic. Registration begins for grades 3 through 6. Session 1 is football. That's September through November of 2013, and Session 2 is basketball. That's January through March of 2014. June 28th is the 17th Annual Have a Blast Celebration. That's held at J.R. Martin Park, beginning at 6 p.m. And July 26th is Republic Night at the Springfield Cardinals, 7 o'clock at Hammons Field.
Hey, Jared, how many communities around here are having 4th of July celebration?
I know of 2 or 3. A lot of them have stopped. We are one that keeps going. I admire that about our community. We Have a Blast gets bigger and bigger every year. So.
Right. That's wonderful. Well, I appreciate all the work of the Parks Department and all the departments. We have all the departments involved that day, and Certainly appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Board commissions and committee schedule, Board of Adjustments, June 6th, capital improvements, June 18th, city council, June 3rd is a workshop, June 10th, and June 24th. Planning and zoning is June 17th. Before we move on to old business, I would like to thank Mr. Harder for filling in for me in my absence. I certainly appreciate that, Mr. Harder, and I hear you did a fantastic job, except for the attorney. But for the most part, I do appreciate all the work that you guys do in my absence, all the work that you guys do, so I certainly appreciate you doing that. Thank you. On old business, need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-21.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0-1.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Boards, Commissions, and Committees, Articles 1, Capital Improvements Committee by adding to the article language to clarify the duties and structure of the Capital Improvements Committee.
Need a motion to have final passage of bill number 13-21.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And that would be Mr. Krischke. Please give us the overview, sir.
All right, this is the second read to make some changes to the ordinance and code for the Capital Improvements Committee. I think Shane Grooms has left, but Shane Grooms was actually the chairperson of that committee for a couple of years that I can remember. And during his time on that committee, he recognized that there were some inconsistencies with the way they go about their business and tried to help refine the Capital Improvements Committee and how they're structured and what they're all about. So this is the end result of all of that, and what we're doing with this particular ordinance is changing Chapter 125 of our municipal code, and it really relates to how the city's charter and the municipal code match up with each other and how that affects the reports of the city council. It further goes on to just clarify how they operate in terms of who the officers are, how they become the officers of that committee, and then it amends slightly some of the duties and reports for the committee.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Krischke? Anything at all? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Harrelson?
Aye.
Councilmember Poole?
Aye.
Councilmember Casagrande?
Aye.
Councilmember Harder?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Hutchison?
Abstain.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Klinkenbeard?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0-1. At this time, we do not have any new business. On other business resolutions and discussion, we have four of those. Resolution number 13-R-30, resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri authorizing modifications of park main drainage improvements. Need a motion? Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, we are where we are. We have Mr. Brock. Just give us a brief overview, and then I'm going to run from there.
All right, sir. In response to concerns expressed by residents in South Dogwood, we've developed a number of options for potential modifications
Thank you, sir.
to the existing project.
Yeah, there you go. Or just hold it up to you. Hold it up to you, Dave. You can.
The first approach would be to essentially leave the project as is. We still have street work to do in the area. Option two is to enclose the existing channels with corrugated metal piping. We would require some surface inlets in the area. Estimated cost $150,000, estimated time to complete 10 weeks. Our third option is to construct block retaining walls on both sides of the open channel. Our estimated cost there $135,000, estimated completion time 5 weeks. And option four would build on option three by adding a section of curb on the edges of the roadway, and that would incorporated with parking restrictions, allow on-street parking on that roadway. I mentioned the time to complete because we do have a fairly robust construction schedule for the year. I'll just name off the projects and note that we believe with these existing work will get us through November 1st. Our street resurfacing, of course, right turn lane addition at O'Neill and Highway 60, West Elm Street sidewalks, and another stormwater project on South Walnut. I do note in the exhibit impact or potential impact on our finances. We don't have unbudgeted or funds set aside for any additional work, so council would be asked to either complete a new appropriation or to give direction on deferring existing budgeted expense.
Thank you, sir. Certainly appreciate that. We have a time frame. This project has, in 2008, after some historic rainfalls, we heard a lot from the area regarding flooding during the annual budget meeting in fall 2009. It was recommended that we rank that as a priority, and that was December 9 through 11. We approved funding. We approved without funding for Dogwood. 2010 capital improvements again ranked this as one of their hot top priorities. In 2011, April, City Council authorized a contract for Olson to design a project. 2011 in June, first stakeholders meeting was held for pre-design, and we had 2 families attend in December of 2011. 2012 budget adopted $250,000 appropriation for that particular project in itself. Also in 2011, had a second stakeholders meeting. 5 to 6 families were represented at that time. And March 20th, 2012, third stakeholders meeting for final construction plan. 7 families attended June 20th, and we can go on. But this project's been ongoing, as you can tell, for quite a few years. It is a 40-year-old problem, and we're going to work on fixing it, and let's see if we can get it right. However, at this time, here's what I would like to do. Typically, during resolutions for this particular portion, do not usually allow citizen input. That usually happens before. However, in this particular case, I want to make sure that we have allowed enough time for everybody to speak at the podium. I would ask that you do respect a 3 to 4 minute time frame. That's what we usually ask for everybody, regardless whether we're talking about citizen participation or something else. Another thing that I would like to ask, we would love to hear whatever you have to say. We do have some of your information here. As far as the petition, thank you very much. We received that and checked those names off. Certainly appreciate that too. Also, I would like to say, when you do speak, this is a time for you to tell your council members here what you would like. It's your time to tell them what you want. And again, you have 8 different council members. They may or may not vote what you like, but this time what I would like you to do is to tell them what you want. Now, from council, what I'm going to ask for them, since they have a time for them to speak, I'm going to ask them just to listen to what you have to say. When it comes time for them to discuss, they're going to discuss it. And there's going to be things that you want to say while they're discussing it. I'm asking them not to discuss and talk when you're doing it. I'm asking you not to do that when they do it. It's just common courtesy. That way you guys can say whatever you want, and then they can have a discussion among themselves. There's many facets to this, but in the long run, as long as we hear what you have to say, that's the best mode. As long as they have an opportunity to discuss it among themselves, the better the opportunity too. So those are the 2 things that I asked. I would respect that. And 3 or 4 minutes, if you would, please sign in as we always do. Sign in, state your name and your address, and give us your best 3 to 4 minutes on that. And I will open it up to the floor for residents, if you would like, please. Podium's up, and adjust the microphone as needed. If you can't be heard, adjust the microphone as needed.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Tomnitz, and I live at 117 South Dogwood, and I'm sure that you know how I feel about it. I have emailed each of you, and I am the one that walked the petition around after we had a group meeting where all but one family chose to ask that you would bury the pipes again on Dogwood. we are asked, or I want that in particular because of the safety issue. As you know, I have 2 grandchildren that I am very concerned about falling in the ditch. Another obstacle that we did not know until, well, we knew, but we didn't know how bad it was until this last week when we went to mow the ditch. There is no mowing that ditch. My husband got on it with a weed eater, and he had to stand at an angle like this to be able to even cut the ditch, the grass growing up in the ditch. And it's not a good job, but that's all we could do. We worry about the safety, the health, the mosquitoes that will gather because there is water standing in some of the ditches, not in mine. Mine does go down. I did email you that I had been out in that storm to see how it handled the water, and it did not get out of the concrete in front of my house. It was up approximately in the ditch about this far. And then 15 minutes later, I went out again to check it, and it was just a trace of water. You could see water had been there, but there was not even any water moving. So it was like a flash flood is what I assume it was. I ask for your consideration and hope that you consider the health, the safety, the looks, and what the citizens of the community are requesting. We do understand that it is a longer time length, but we believe it's worth the wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Hello, I'm actually Jamie Tomnitz, that's my mother. I live at 136 South Dogwood, and those are actually my children that she's talking about, and I would like to...
Not you, huh?
Yeah, well, I've been in the ditch too. But I just would ask for your consideration on this to bury the piping. Overall, it makes the most sense for us as a street, as a community, for the safety aspect. Vehicles could end up upside down in the ditch. It's large enough to actually hold a whole vehicle. My kids, the kids that run around our neighborhood, mowing is definitely an option. I have not been able to mow mine at this point. I actually stand there and I sink within the ditch because it's still not it's not firm yet, but it's coming along. But if you guys would please consider our voice that we've delivered in the petition, and as you sat here and look at the turnout for something that we care very deeply for, and we hope that you care for us as well, because it would be a very, very good improvement, I feel, and very sufficient to just go ahead and bury the pipe and put it back to a safe environment for all of us that live on the Dogwood subdivision there. So, thank you.
My name is Bob Mays. I live at 143 South Dogwood. I don't have any little kids that I worry about except the ones across the street from me and the ones up and down the street. I have tried to get out there. I can't even walk up and down the sides of that thing to try to even come close to mowing it. So if it's going to be left the way it is, up to the council, and I know you guys have tough decisions to make all the time, but if it's going to be left the way it is, I'm going to tell somebody they're going to have to mow mine because I can't.
Thank you, Bob.
My name is Jessica Brooks. I live at 150 South Dogwood Avenue. And I'm not very good with words, so I just want to come out and say I was really shocked when I saw that this was the completion, and I felt like crying. I just want it beautiful again, so I want our street back again.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
so I can see. Hi, my name's Kenny Burgess. I live at 201 South Dogwood, and I was for this project when it started because we really did have a water issue. And I moved here from Springfield, and I lived on a street that had a water issue there. And I was proud to move to Republic. We tried to sell our house for a long time so we could move here, and I was proud to be a resident. And when I got the thing that said they were going to build this thing, I was really, really happy. When they sent the bulldozer to my front door and he dug the Mississippi River on one side and the Missouri River on the other side, I felt like I was in Granby, Missouri somewhere, because this wasn't how I felt it was going to be. I thought we were going to get sidewalks, curb and guttering, and a drainage ditch. But since I now live on the Mississippi side of Dogwood and not the Missouri side, we would appreciate it if you'd consider doing something, because it is a hard obstacle. As a former real estate agent, I feel like we probably lost 25% value on our street, because when you turn down it looks like an industrial park. There's all these little curves and all these little holes and everything, and I don't have the dual pipes that the guy on the second street has. All I have is the two that you gave me and the little bridge. But we appreciate you considering doing something, because even just the little retaining walls would be okay. But I, too, have 8 grandkids, and most of them are not going to play in the ditch. But it is something that I do feel like very deeply is a hazard. We appreciate your time and consideration in redoing this again. Thank you very much.
Dale Boucher. Call me Danny, but it's Dale. Anyway, I'm 114 South Dogwood. And I want to thank everyone for actually giving us the time to hear our voice about this project. And I'm with everyone else. I feel that I think it was option 2. It needs to be below ground, and just for the safety reasons and for the aesthetics of the whole street. And I think we can bring it back the way it was, and it'll be an improvement even underground. I think we've gained something by doing that with the volume, even at that. And I really do believe that we'll do the right thing tonight and vote this thing underground, basically, because I think that's what really needs to happen. That's kind of, I think, the way the majority of the street, the residents feel about this. So I appreciate your vote. In accordance with our petition. I appreciate everything, and thank you for your help, and thank you, and Shane, too. I never got to meet Shane. I don't know if he's here, but
He left. I'm sure he would leave real quick.
I never got a chance to meet him, but I know he was instrumental in
Yes.
getting this project, for the residents here of our street, so I appreciate that, and Marty, too. So I pray and hope you all do the right thing. Thank you.
My name's John Decker. I'm at 141 South Dogwood. And I'm like the rest of them. I don't have any grandkids to worry about falling in the ditch, but there's a lot of kids that play on our street. And a lot of them are riding their bikes in the ditches and climbing through, trying to get into the pipe and such. And I'm with the rest of them. I'd just like to see it buried. I'd like to have our street back and our yard back, and not have to deal with the sides of the hills and trying to weed eat it and such. And all I got.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Burns. I live at 123 South Dogwood, and I do, as well as everybody else, would like, for this ditch to be underground, buried, for safety as well as curb appeal on our properties. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Sandy McCormick, live at 214 South Dogwood, and I agree with everybody else. We'd like to have it buried, not only just for safety or curb appeal, but the trash and yard waste that comes down through there, and the stormwater doesn't seem to be cleaning that out very good. We have dirt in our ditch out in the front that not only has grass growing in the ditch, but we also now have little tiny trees coming up in that dirt down in there. So it's a pretty big eyesore, and just this past weekend is the first time since this started that it's been dry. There's been water running on our side of the street ever since, and it's unsightly. I would just like for everybody to consider this. How would you like it in your front yard? Thanks for your consideration.
Anybody else? Others?
My name is Joanne Light, and my circumstances are a little different. My house faces 8117 Rosewood, and then the left-hand side is on Dogwood. I think that the option 2 is the better of the options, and I would like to keep the value of my house. So I guess what I'm saying is I would encourage option 2 to be done.
Thank you, Joanne. Others? Anybody else? I can't see behind the podium, so I don't know if that's staff members. That's Laura, sorry. Saw David's head, can't see that far. Anybody else from the neighborhood would like to speak? Anybody else? Anything? Okay. Fair enough. We certainly appreciate your comments. We did, at the town hall meeting we had with you, I certainly appreciate your honesty, appreciate you being respectful. Again, I appreciate the manner in which you have presented your information. It shows that you have done your homework, and we certainly appreciate that. And at this point, council, I'm going to open it up to you. Basically, what you are deciding at this particular time is options here for this particular project. Now, as it sits, I'll explain just a few things before we move on. As it sits, usually staff has a recommendation for this type of project. However, in this particular case, staff does not have a recommendation for this particular project. It's already been approved. It's been completed to a certain point. So in that particular case, I just want everybody to know staff does not have a recommendation on most items. I would say 99% of the items that come through here that you are voting on, they have a recommendation. That is not the case in this, since we are actually changing a recommendation staff has already made, or you're looking at 4 scenarios there. Staff with Mr. Brock and Mr. Forrester, Mr. Dove, they're here to answer questions in case you guys have questions about flow, in case you have questions about something on the engineering side. Laura Guy Rice is here to discuss finances if you want to get into that. However, just want to make sure everybody's clear. What you're looking at tonight is these 4 options. If you have something else that you want to bring it up, we can explore that. If it takes more time, then it takes more time. You You guys have all the time you need. So that's where we are. I just want to let you know why staff does not have a recommendation on this particular project, why it does not have that listed on there. That's where we are. So, with that said, I will open it up now to council. Questions, comments, discussion, and please, you can direct your comments and discussion to the council members.
I have one for you real quick.
Yes, sir, and just let me get that.
Yeah, you bet.
As far as my concern in this particular matter, my concern is to make sure that you have all the information you need in order to make an informed decision. That's my job. And hopefully you have every piece of information. If you don't, we will find it. We have 4 people here that can get that information. So, Mr. Quinkenbeard, you have a question for me, sir? Go
Yes,
ahead.
ultimately, you're looking for a motion on an option, and then secondly, David said mentioning something about appropriation to pay for it. Is that part of this as well, or do we finalize this and then find out how to pay for it?
That's a good question.
That's a key component.
Well, the key component is definitely going to be financing on any of it. So any option other than number 1 is going to require financing. So that's the option that, unless you choose option number 1, which requires $0, then everything's going to have financing, which is a separate discussion, which means that if that's what you decide as a council, if you decide on one of the options that has payment on it, that requires dollars, then that will also require a budget amendment, which you will have to bring back to council as a discussion
That will be
for
a
a budget
future
amendment.
meeting then. Okay, so that won't be...
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
That's a good clarification. Want everybody to understand that council decides what is to be done, and if that's the case, financing, then we'll have to come in a second meeting for a budgetary amendment. So, Ms. Guy Rice might be able to explain some of that as we go along. However, in this particular case, you're going to have to ask those questions as we move along for financing. If you want to go that route, it'd be up to you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right, council, questions, comments, discussion? And you're right, all I'm asking for is a motion on a particular option. That's all I'm asking for. But discussion-wise, you're going to have to discuss this amongst yourselves. Open it up. Comments, questions, discussion, as always do. Mr. Harder.
What was the initial cost of this project?
David, you can answer that.
We had a engineering expense of $28,000, utility relocation about $45,000, and the contracted work came in about $227,000 at the end.
So 295, so if you're adding that up, somewhere right in there.
Answer your question, Mr. Harder?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brock, the 10-week completion date, when does that time start?
First, we need to have get our materials together. We need to get through our street work. We're on a path there that it'd be very difficult to stop that particular train. So the goal would be to have, and more than likely we would have bids that we would need to bring back to council to award. It'd be such a sizable purchase that we would have a start date somewhere in early July in that time frame. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson.
I'd like to ask John his thoughts on this.
Mr. Forrester?
Thoughts on what?
No. But I want to ask him a closed-ended question. Go ahead, Gary.
I'm sure he'll come.
One of the things are, you've got to look at the different capacities that the ditch is going to carry versus what the buried pipe will carry. The initial initial condition out there, you had basically, we wouldn't classify it as a year protection. When it rained, I think the comment was made every time, or once a year the street would flood, and so we're looking at maybe a 1-year protection. You go in there and look at what's constructed right now, and that really carries a 10-year event. If we go in there and go with option 2, what you will be doing is cutting that 10-year down to about a 2-year event. So it's going to flood a lot more frequently than it would have, but not as much as it has been, if that makes a sense. Going with option 3, where you put some blocks in, landscaping blocks, retaining walls in there, it will still carry about the 10-year event. We lose a little storage, but it should not impact the carrying capacity. It will just hold more volume, or less volume than it would have if the ditch was left the way it is right now.
If you did the block, would you do it on the house side and the street side?
The proposal is to do it on both sides, yes. And what that would, the benefit there is it would lower the slope on both sides, make it more, if you want to call it, more maintainable. Normally we look at slopes in ditches of 3 to 1 are maintainable. Anything steeper than that gets difficult. That was tried to be maintained out there. It's difficult because we have restricted right-of-way to work within. But putting the blocks in there on both sides, as that picture, I think you remember the little rendering that was made. Your side slopes from the top of the retaining wall back would be flatter and would be something that can be mowed a lot easier. And there's a limit on how high you want to make those from a safety concern also. So I think we were looking at up 18 inches is the maximum would go on that, and that would flatten that top slope out.
Okay. Answer your question, Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Additional, Mr. Castro?
Who will the reduced flow from a 10-year to a 2-year rain event affect anyone besides the residents of Dogwood? Will this affect Rosewood? Will this affect anybody besides these residents?
Primarily is going to be the residents on Rosewood, yes.
On Dogwood?
On Dogwood, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Harder, go ahead, sir.
On burying the pipe, and John, you might have to answer this, or maybe. On burying the pipe, I'm sorry, the pipe would be how far below level ground? How far would that pipe be?
Well, in a lot of cases, it's going to be less than a foot.
Okay.
And what that will do, it will create maintenance problems for the city in the future. Because that piping, the corrugated metal pipes are not rated for anything below a foot of cover. And so if you have any traffic on it, parking on it, it has potential to damage the pipe and create a maintenance problem.
Okay. Thank you.
The other thing that Will mentioned, that will this have, I was talking to Eric. Eric is our water resources guru, and he mentioned that one of the things, the box culvert that was put under Elm Street has a capacity of about the 10-year event. And so if we come down and we hit a piping capacity that has only a 2-year event, it will back up water and back it up on probably on the north side of Elm Street then.
And then go over Elm Street?
And then could go then over top Elm Street, yes.
Mr. Klinkenberg, go ahead.
For him before he sits down. A couple things. One, on that pressure, isn't it more likely that it would come out of the pressure would push it out of the grates down lower on the street rather than go back up on Elm?
It will push out some, but it will still back up, yes. It's got to build up that head to push it out, and so it will back up.
Some. The other question I had was, like, going under the driveways, a lot of them have 2 pipes now. Are we going to put a Y on each side of those, or are we going to completely rip out their driveways again and put a new pipe under there to match the rest of the street if we choose that option?
What we were looking at, what was envisioned was to connect onto the pipes that are there.
So maybe only using one where there's two, or would you put a Y
Well,
there?
We'd still have to go with two pipes. You'd have two pipes buried.
Oh, I got you. The whole way would do the
Right.
two pipes. Once the two start, you would continue them on down the street.
Well, and the stove pipes that are mentioned, we'd have to stagger them on each, one pipe at one driveway,
Sure.
one pipe another, so that you try to balance the flow going into the pipes.
That's a good idea.
Because you don't want to get one pipe empty and the other pipe all the way full.
Sure.
Try to balance it out.
That's your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I had somebody else, Mr. Casagrande, go ahead.
So, you mentioned, I'm sorry, Mr. Forster. You mentioned that there will be places where the dirt will only be a foot, that the pipes will only be buried. Where is that going to be? The ditch is significantly deeper than that all the way down.
That'll be where the stove pipes are, because we've got to grade, what will have to be done, you'll have to grade the ditches that are there. We'll have to still create a grade down to the low spot, where the stove pipes would be. And if those stove pipes, it's probably where the location could be less than a foot.
Okay.
And the location of the stove pipes are gonna primarily be upstream, up gradient, if you wanna call it, to each driveway.
Okay.
To try to pick up the water so you're not transferring that water over the driveways.
Before you move on to that question, Ms. Poole, let me get you a second. Clarify how many stove pipes you're gonna need on that particular route, and how many per yard if there's more than one.
There's probably, I would say there's gonna be 22 to 25 stove pipes.
So some yards will have one or two?
No, you just have one.
Just have one each yard, okay. That answers that question, thank you. Ms. Poole, go ahead, ma'am.
What percentage of from Elm Street to Rosewood would we have that just had the stovepipes and have a foot coverage? What percentage would that be?
Would have to go through and just have to look at a profile view of that. I don't know that information right now. There would be a number of them. I don't have that information. Just have to look and see.
Would it be the more upstream locations, though, correct?
I couldn't say that either without looking at the profile. There would be several of them, I know. And that was one of the concerns that we discussed was, how many, we just knew that there'd be several of them that would be low.
Mr. Quakenberry, then Mr. Beshears.
Before you sit down.
Stay standing, your part for your while.
If the burial pipe option is used, is there, I assume to get into the grates, we're going to do a little bit of a swell anyway, maybe like, what, a foot or so, something like that?
Well, see, that's the issue is where you're going to have this low cover, the shallow overburden material over the pipe is where you're trying to grade it so it carries that flow down to the grate.
Was that additional swell down the street, although it's small as it may be, would that be equivalent to what they had before we touched anything, so we're gaining the 2 year in the pipe and maybe a little extra on the top of the ground then too?
I would not say you're gaining anything extra on the top of the ground.
Because that swell's going to be so shallow.
We're going to try to minimize it, but, some way you've got to direct the water to get into the pipes.
Right.
Mr. Beshears, you're next, sir.
John, on the pipes you mentioned, a corrugated type pipe, what type of material is that pipe? Is it metal?
It's steel. Yeah,
Steel?
metal.
What's the
galvanized.
What's the lifespan?
If it's put in and there's no damage on it, you can get a fairly good life. What do you see in?
25 years, typically.
Normally, though, we don't use a lot of corrugated metal pipe in this type of application.
That's my next question. In other projects around town, has that been used?
No.
What type was used?
Well, we like to use concrete if you can, but that greatly increases the price. Going at the very southeast end of the project, we've got some concrete elliptical pipe there. The price of that just is a lot higher than the corrugated. The corrugated pipe was used under the driveways because we've got vertical soil and backfill material over the top of the pipe, and then we have a concrete driveway slab.
and that helps distribute the load out, so we don't have the concern over damage to the pipe underneath the driveways. There would be a concern of damage to the pipe if anybody parks on it, if we've got that low cover. And it depends on how firm the material is too when it's placed.
What weight would damage a pipe if it's buried a foot deep? Would a car do it?
Well, probably not a car, but it could, depending on what type of loading was placed on it. You know, if you just got the light cars nowadays, it may not damage it. If you've got a pickup truck that's loaded or a trash truck that gets off into it, most definitely. Yeah. What Eric was mentioning, the abrasion of the coating, and if the coating gets, galvanized coating gets damaged, then it would greatly reduce the life of it, which could potentially, affect the strength of it.
Mr. Wilson. So you're saying in about 25 years, there's a possibility you'd have to be digging it out and replacing it? You're saying yes, and you're saying...
Eric will answer that question.
I've done a fair number of storm sewer projects where we're ripping metal out. And those were put in 25, 30 years ago. Not uncommon.
Eric, you may need to stand up, so
Sorry.
some of these Mrs. Bull can't see.
Eric Douglas Olson. I have 20 years of experience. I've always specialized in stormwater drainage. And, I've put in metal pipe. I've taken metal pipe out. You do get what you pay for. We always try to do concrete if we can. We can typically get 75 years reliable, and it's always more expensive in the future to do this. So if we can afford to do concrete now, we always recommend it. So going metal, we have reduced capacity. We know in 25, 30 years we'll have to redo it. So there is a trade-off.
When you say it's more, are we talking 10% more, 50% more, 100% more? I mean, how much of a difference are we talking to do a different type of metal or concrete?
3 times.
3 times as much.
To do concrete.
So we're looking at, to do just that portion of it. So what portion of the 150 is the steel that would be 3 times as much?
Stand up there, David, and tell us, and give us that clarification.
We would have combined there, let's see, $45,000 for the pipe, $2,500 for the banding, $18,000 for the tees. So
the stove top.
Yes, yeah, the stove, the inlets. So if you wanted to convert to concrete, the pipe that was put in as part of the project came in he bought it at $14.25 a foot. An equivalent concrete pipe size, I think you're looking at least $36, $38 a foot at best. Your tees are going to be much more expensive than the $600 per unit that we have estimated here. Junction boxes, the other thing to keep in consideration when you switch to a concrete pipe, you leave the existing corrugated metal under the driveway, or do you change that out as well? So our footages that we've used in our estimates could be substantially different as well if we took out.
So we're talking well over 100,000 probably difference. I just wanted to know if we're talking 10, 20,000 or 100.
If you go to concrete pipe, you've got to leave the pipes in underneath the driveways, then you've got to put some type of transition. The only way to really transition that is in a junction box.
Sure. So there's a lot. Okay, that's what I needed to know. Just need to know all of our information. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, go ahead, sir.
I have the same question for Eric there, I guess.
Stand up there.
You being in stormwater for 20 years, what's your thoughts on this project?
Hey, Eric, stand behind the microphone.
All right.
We got you on camera and mic. You're and on camera. Thank you, sir.
Residential rehab is tough. It always is. When those houses were built quite a while ago, they probably had ditches. And as everyone knows, when developers go in and build new subdivisions, that cost is actually on the lot. So those residential houses buy that storm sewer pipe. So to go in on a rehab is tough to do. It is tough. Several communities have done open ditches. Several communities have done enclosed pipe. So really all options are on the table. I'd say 50-50 of the communities I work with. They've had historically ditches, and I mean historically, back when they were built. They typically go back in with new, bigger, better ditches. But again, it's probably 50-50 over the years. We need to be careful if we do retaining walls. There is some traffic concerns if we get our retaining walls too tall. I'm worried about that if a car were to drive off and go off the retaining walls. So we need to be careful on those. Then with metal pipe, I've taken out a lot of metal pipe and replaced it with concrete. So I have a hard time recommending metal, but at the same time in this situation, metal's probably the only viable option if we want to enclose it. Now we will go thick metal, and then the other challenge is to keep people from parking on it, rutting it up. So we might want to think about what that grading might look like, and try to keep people from crushing the pipe, abrading the pipe, and then ultimately causing a collapse. And it's moving trucks, it's garbage trucks, I mean, all sorts of things we start worrying about.
So you're saying you could cover it up, but really wouldn't want anybody to drive on it?
No.
So they wouldn't be able to park on it, as it were, or they should not park on it, as it were?
When I've done really shallow metal pipes, we actually hump over it. We actually go up and over. But then the challenge is that every driveway, we have to get the water back in the pipe. Because we have the water coming over the yards that we do have to pick up. So what we end up with is a strange bump with a hole. So it's not a good way to do it. Now, if we can somehow keep people from parking on top of it, then I feel a lot better about the metal option.
You said something about the height of the wall, if you put a wall, the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Is 18 inches you feel too high or too low or about right?
What's interesting, if you have a building code, there's actually a book you open that tells you how high you have to go before you have a rail. If you're not hooked to a building, there's really no building code that tells you definitively. So it's a gray area. 18 is common for not requiring a rail. I see that in a lot of communities.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Wilson?
Yes. One for you. Do we have a building code that states how high they have to be?
We don't.
Any takers?
We do have, and we've had some experience with that with some of the sidewalk projects. We are currently operating the 2012 International Building Code, and it draws a distinction at 30 inches. At a 30-inch drop-off under the building code, you're required to install a handrail. As that gets taller, then the handrail just gets beefed up and has more components to it.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Clayton-Beer, go ahead.
How far off of the streets are these stovepipes? I mean, are they going to be, if you look at like the center of the channel now, they may be like, and you're talking about coming off them a little bit of side, are they like 8 or 10 feet to where they do have room to park on the side of the street?
They would be centered on the existing pipes. And as John noted, we'd want to alternate those. So if you were to look across one yard, there might be one at the upstream or uphill of the driveway. But if you were to look down the whole block, you would see them alternate from one pipe to the other.
Are we going to put those fairly close to the upside of their driveway where we might be able just to have any type of a little curb or, like those that they put in front of the cars, keep driving in from buildings just on that 8 or 10 feet coming off of a driveway, where that's the most critical portion not to park on, where we try to direct people off of that area.
We'd be probably about 4 foot off of the driveway. You can imagine, we'd take the pipe that's out there now, slice off the end so that we have a square pipe to attach to. Then our fitting would likely be 3 or 4 feet long with the stovepipe going up attached. So we couldn't be right up against the driveway. We'd be several feet off of that. I think we could have a gentle enough slope that we wouldn't be too concerned about those car stops or park stops.
Well, I was going to say, being that close to the driveway, though, it'd be pretty easy to come from the corner of the street in the driveway, come back at a 45 angle or whatever with one of those 4 or 6 foot curb things that they have, because typically that's where people are going to park their trash cans for the trash guy to pick them up or whatever. Or if they do have people that come and stay, and park it there, they're going to park close to their driveway. You could easily keep people from parking on top of it, because that's the most critical portion. If it'd be different if it was right in the middle of in between 2 driveways trying to block it off. But that close to the end of a driveway, I would think it'd be easy to put some sort of a curb, or wrap the curb around from the end of their driveway, on down a few feet or whatever, just to help keep people from driving over it. That seems like our only negative right now is the crushing of a pipe.
I guess, are you asking a question?
Do you agree? Is that an option? I mean, is that not doable?
Certainly, we can look at that. I mean, that brings into play a lot of other issues. We do need to have drainage in and around those driveway ends, so, I mean, it'd just be something we'd have to investigate, make sure we know what the implications are, which is why I'm hesitant just to fill out a response.
Anytime you put something up in the air that's going to block the water, whether it's coming in or going out, one way or the other, whether it's a curb and gutter or whether it's just something that goes in the driveway, so.
At the minimal distance and to protect $150,000 worth of pipe.
Yes, but
I mean, you got to weigh the negatives.
Yes, however, we still have to understand Mr. Brock's reluctance to add something like that or even talk about it, just for the simple fact of the water moving down the street, water moving in the driveways, off the driveways. So I understand his reluctance to answer the question. He can explore it if he wanted to. It's not an issue. If that's something you guys want to pursue, he can definitely get into it. You have 2 engineers here that are experts in moving water. So if that's something you want to explore, just tell Mr. Brock that's something you wanted to explore. We can look at it. I don't have an issue with that either. It's up to you. You want him to look into it?
If we choose to go that direction, we can look into what options are to protect that investment. Let's put it that way.
Does
that work?
Mr. Quinn made your points well taken. I have to agree with you. Anytime that you want to invest, you want to protect it. I understand. That's a good point. Mr. Wilson?
This is for Laura. Laura, depending on which one we go for, how's the money going to come about?
Well, David has identified some options and what he can defer, maybe put off till next year. So I think we would probably let him decide if that's going to be the bulk of it, or we cover the bulk of it, of the cash outlay. And if not, then we may have to just draw on reserves that we have for the street department. So it basically just, very well depends on the option chosen.
One of the options that David outlined was Lynn Street, which is the extension that would go to Lake Schuler Ridge. There's monies budgeted this year for cooperation with Greene County to do those road improvements. If we were to delay that particular project from this year to next year, that would free up almost the amount of money that we would need to do this project, depending on which option would be chosen. If we were to continue on and do all of the projects that we had planned on doing for this year, it would be new money, which Laura was referring to, that would have to come back for a budget amendment to pull from reserves. So it would all be a matter of what choices we would make about delaying a project already scheduled or adding new money to the budget.
Speaking to that project that you mentioned there, I understand that Greene County is kind of behind, and it might be real late this year anyway before they started, and it may not be a big deal to move our money into next year's budget. Is that correct? Is that a Dave question?
Probably, David can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's part of a larger developers agreement that we've had with the developers of Lakes of Schuler Ridge and Greene County, kind of clearing up that old MPI agreement that was out there. So that needs to come to council. So that's probably it would be a late 2013 project, if it happens. So it may be delayed already, yes.
Okay.
Ms. Poole?
Was the depth and the danger of stovepipe mentioned to the citizens before or during any of their meetings? I don't recall us talking about stovepipe until tonight.
No, we talked about it at the town hall meeting. We discussed covering it because we had to get the water in there, so.
Covering it, but I don't recall them saying that it would be covered only 12 inches and that there'd be a danger to parking. I don't think we was ever told that.
Well, Ms. Poole, respectfully, we did cover the stovepipes. Whether we covered the foot covering, I don't remember as far as we got that in depth. We did discuss the stovepipes as far as that goes in our town hall meeting. We do have a slide on that, but as
The
far
depth, though.
the
Did we
depth,
talk
I
about the
understand.
depth?
Yeah, I understand what your question is. I think John and David are going to be looking through their paperwork right now to see if they've covered that. So to answer your question, I don't know right off the top of my head. That's a good point. That's why they're digging.
I just, if they were not aware of the danger of this before they made their decision, that could have changed their thinking.
That's very true.
Would be if it was in my front yard.
Are you saying you're going to park on it, Ms. Poole?
Just on the weekend when she brings her semi.
And her monster. Ms. Poole, that's an excellent question. So.
You probably wouldn't want to park on those grates either way, so.
No, definitely not the stovepipes. Mr. Cascarin, go ahead.
Can I make a statement rather than a question?
Whatever you want to do.
The residents mentioned when we got together the other night, and I let them talk. I did not steer that meeting in any way. They're very well aware of the trade-off that they're getting between the 10-year flood event to the 2-year flood event. They know what they're trading off, but it's admittedly only affecting the residents that live on Dogwood, most of which are longtime residents. They know what they're getting into. They know what they're asking for. Next, I can think of many farm culverts made of this corrugated material that have about this much dirt on them, that have tractors running over them all the time, that have been there for ever and ever and ever. And you ask any farmer, and they've been there for quite a while. Next on that, parking moving trucks or trash trucks on the pipe, what's in the ground. Unlikely, I would say, because of the gradient where the stovepipes are coming, but also I would challenge you to imagine putting a moving truck or a trash truck on that road right now. A couple problems inherent with that if somebody tried to move out because of this. 30 inches is the standard for handrails. There are several retaining walls right now that are well over 30 inches, so that's something that would need to be addressed if that's the standard. We had one picture that one lady showed where it was almost up to her shoulders, I believe. And then as far as parking on the actual piping that's in the ground, if you go down that street and all the streets to the left and right of it, nobody parks on the street. Everybody's parking in their driveway. It's a well-kept community, and people aren't generally parking on the street. That's not to say that somebody couldn't. They could. But in general, people don't. So just some things I wanted to draw your attention to.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Quickenberry? Saw your finger go up.
I'll make kind of a statement like Marty.
Go ahead.
My big concerns here were, what do the residents want? And they've spoken overwhelmingly in favor of option 2. Secondly, whether we can afford to do it, and it looks like between reserves and possible things that we can move, the $150,000, part of that's our labor too, so it's a little less than that, but that's not an option, a hindrance to being able to do this. And the residents have spoken that they don't mind moving down from a 10-year to a 2-year. It makes probably a huge difference in the usability of the yard and the street, the resale value. I can understand all of their reasons for wanting to do that. As a city, as a representative of them, that makes, we can do it feasibly, money-wise, and it's overwhelmingly what they want. And at this time, I'm going to make a motion to do option number 2.
I will second it. I have a motion and a second for option number 2. I'm taking...
So that's to be inserted into the current resolution, and then there will be a vote on the resolution.
Okay. Does that make sense? That's a motion to put option number 2 into the resolution?
Yes, sir.
And then we'll vote on the resolution as it's written with option 2 in, correct?
Correct. And the $150,000 figure.
Written.
Yes, sir.
Now, I have a motion and a second to insert number 2 into the resolution. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
2. Any abstentions? 1. Motion carries 5-2-1. Now we're at a point where we have an ordinance built in the back, on the last page of your documentation there, resolution number 13-R-30. You'll notice there, under section 1, you have, there's 2 blanks there. Those 2 blanks will be filled in with option 2, an estimated cost of $150,000. That is your resolution as it stands. Now, additional questions, comments, discussion, since you have the resolution in front of you fully completed with option 2, $150,000. Everybody follow me where you're at? Okay, I'll make sure everybody's on the same page. Now, we'll take questions, comments, discussion now on the resolution of option 2 of the $150,000. Yes, ma'am.
I guess I just have one comment, and I would hope that throughout this process that we take what we've learned and everyone takes what they've learned. For the residents, please, please, please be involved from the get-go and understand what's being shown to you, and if you don't, please ask questions. For the city, we need renderings. I mean, because it's not easy for everybody to read a blueprint.
No, I agree.
And because this is, what it's coming down to is costing about $20,000 per house out there to do this. And it's a lot of money, and I understand. I wouldn't want that in my front yard either. I totally understand that, but I think that, showing everyone who showed up for the meetings, it would be great if everyone showed up for the meetings.
At the beginning.
At the beginning.
And your point's well taken. And from the city standpoint, let me address that. The citizens, they obviously have addressed that with the things that they've done. From the city standpoint, when this is completed, Jim and I have meetings scheduled with David, John, engineers on this, and we're going to go over our process and our procedures to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And not that it wasn't the right decision, not that it was the wrong decision. It's just a decision we got down to a point where it had to come back to you. This body is to make ordinances and resolutions for the community and the betterment of all citizens. And when we get to a point where we haven't done that, we need to refocus exactly what we did do in this particular process. Because most of the time, I think 99% of the time, staff is on target. And they were on target with this one at the beginning. At the end, however, citizens spoke up, made some changes. So to your point, we will be addressing that internally after this is all completed. So I just want to assure the council members as well. So thank you. Mr. Quickenberry?
I'll kind of second that artist renderings would be greatly helpful. I also want to make sure that the engineers that were involved and David and his crew and also the people that performed the work, some of them have kind of been thrown under the bus during the upset nature of the whole ordeal, and the work that we asked them to do, it was a professional job out there. It just maybe been in the wrong, not the right job for the particular location. But I want them to recognize that we saw that it wasn't their fault, and that they did a good quality job of work that was out there. So I didn't want them to feel like they took all the heat, that it was all on them for not putting the correct thing forward.
No, and to the engineer's point, John, David, Eric, they did a phenomenal job of putting the thing together. You can see, as you go to the timeline, this thing's been on the books since, 2008. I mean, we're 2013. So getting to where we were starting in 2010, getting a budget, getting it, and starting to put the money aside for it, it takes a lot of money to do a project like this. So, David's had it at the forefront of the Capital Improvements Committee now for a couple, 3 years. So getting to here took a while. We had the same problem with another Jewel in Maine. That thing sat on the books 7 years until David, Jim, and some others got involved and said, we got to get this done. So, they should be commended for that, but at the same time, we still got some things we got to work on. They still did a good job all around in engineering. We appreciate what they've done too. So, additional comments, questions, discussion, anything at all? Mr. Cascaran?
I'd like to move that we pass Resolution 13-R-30.
Second that.
We already get done.
It's basically repetitive, but
Yeah.
he's calling the question. You
I'm
could
calling
call
the
the
question.
question.
Calling the question.
That's a problem.
You already called for the question, so, Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry.
I'll say it sooner or later.
Did I have a second for the call for the question? I have a question, I have a motion and a second call for the question. All in favor of resolution number 13-R-30 with option 2 at $150,000 estimated cost, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand on this one, please. Let's try again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-2 to 1. Thank you, council. Thank you all for coming. We're going to move on.
We had one thing, just so everyone knows, the resolution authorizes staff to move forward with this particular option. We still need to come back. I'm assuming we'll get this together for the very next meeting, which would be June 10th, to come up with the financing portion of it, because we still have to decide whether or not we are going to add reserves to our budget, which would require a budget amendment to fund this project, or are we going to delay another project that's previously been on the books for this year. So we do need to come back to City Council again just to make sure that we have the appropriate financing in place. So we've got the direction, and we will be back at I'm assuming, the very next meeting with the appropriate paperwork to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. On the next item, need resolution number 13-R-31A, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing additional street improvements for 2013. I'd like to have a motion on that.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Welcome back, Mr. Brock. Give us an overview, sir.
We're plotting and scheming.
Whatever you want to do, sir.
This is a resolution that is to consider adding South Magnolia into our street work for the year. And there was some previous discussion when the intergovernmental agreement with Greene County was up for City Council review, that our asphalt prices are lower than originally projected during our budget preparation, and we would anticipate coming in under budget about $32,000 if nothing were to change. Staff is recommending that we add Magnolia, South Magnolia. This is a street that's on our multi-year schedule, currently slotted for 2014. However, it's in very close proximity to the other streets that we're working on, Dogwood, Rosewood, Redbud. We feel we can accomplish this additional street during the same rental time frame that we need for the heavy equipment that we get. And we would also anticipate that Magnolia would cost more in 2014 to actually undertake. A little bit of uncertainty there as we wait each year to see what our asphalt prices are going to be, but certainly we can anticipate that we'll have incremental increases in our labor and equipment use expense, and more than likely in rental equipment. We do have a fairly healthy cash reserve, well over 6 months operating expenses, And so you'll see in this case, the staff is recommending that we add that to our project list for the year.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock?
Go for it.
There's some comment right there. Additional questions, comments, Mr. Quickenborne, go ahead, sir.
I will say that at the last meeting, I was, because of this dogwood issue and wanting to make sure that we use our finances efficiently and properly for the citizens, that I was against this, or at least wanted to have it out until we knew what else was going to be happening. I'm changing my mind after speaking with David, and now I'm for this, being able to take advantage of the equipment for the week, mainly because our reserves are a lot larger than what we would normally carry, and it wouldn't take, even with dogwood, it wouldn't take us long to replenish that. So I just wanted, especially after I was against it and was concerned about savings of the $30,000, which I always want to look at things that way. In this particular instance, I've changed my position after finding out what all the finances are in David's department, so I wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, sir. Additional comments, questions, or discussion for Mr. Brock?
And thanks for your time the other day.
Anything at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? No abstention. 701. Next item, resolution number 13-R-32, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the execution and delivery of financing documents with U.S. Bancorp Government Leasing and Finance Incorporated for lease financing of 2 fire pumper trucks. Would like to have a motion on that.
Second.
I have a motion over here, a second over here. Welcome, Laura. Please give us an overview.
Okay. Well, it seems like a long time ago since you actually approved those 2 fire pumper trucks.
Go ahead. Go. Sorry. Go ahead.
And now that they are about to be delivered within the next month, we have decided we better get some financing in place. So we looked at actually how much we could afford to pay down on the fire trucks. We had budgeted $750,000 in expenditures, looked at the fire reserves that we currently have set aside, and felt like we could afford a down payment to bring the amount financed down to $600,000, which ultimately lowers our financing cost anyway, so it's to our benefit. And so I sent out requests for bids to 14 local, you like this word, don't you, outstate and out-of-state banks and financing companies to try to get a good variety of bids in. And we did have 10 respond from a sampling from each of those. And looking at the options that we had requested, which were on the 5, 7, or 10-year repayment schedule, we had determined that since the fire sales tax had passed, that it was going to be repaid, for these trucks were going to be repaid out of that, and the minimum that we could go was the 7-year term. We looked at originally the 10-year term, but the financing cost alone between a 7 and 10-year term was over $30,000 in additional interest. So we wanted to try to save and try to get in as low as we could possibly come, and so the 7-year term was what determined we could pay. And when we looked at that from the banks and financing companies that had bid on that, the U.S. Bancorp was the lowest at 1.66%, and to reduce our financing costs even lower, we chose the semi-annual repayment schedule. So approximately our repayments will be $91,159 on an annual basis over the 7 years. And so at this time, I'd like to request that you consider that option and allow the city administrator to execute and deliver any financing documents that are necessary to move forward.
Thank you. Questions, comments, discussion for Laura? Anything at all?
Is the recommendation already on there, or is a motion needed for that one?
No, this one's actually got it on there, so if I'm not mistaken, let me look, make sure. You did a Bank Corp on there, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Bank Corp or U.S. Bank?
U.S. Bank. Sorry.
Make sure.
You need the full name, I'll give it to you. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
Right here.
One abstention. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution number 13-R-33, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, providing direction to the Capital Improvement Committee. Your motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Christie, give us the overview, sir.
This is the second part of the change in the municipal code. This is really a resolution just to provide guidelines to the Capital Improvements Committee. It defines what their purpose would be, their objective, just to give them an idea of what they are supposed to be looking for and how that works within the city. And then third part of that was to provide some guidance to the criteria to what would appear on the capital improvements agenda. That's always been at issue on what is actually a capital improvements, and we've spent a fair amount of time trying to determine exactly what is a capital improvement and what isn't. You know, technically, a police car is a capital improvement, but typically those expenses are more minor in nature. We run those through in a cycle where those are picked up during the annual budget process and paid for out of annual revenues. Other items, when you get into the larger vehicles, the fire trucks, larger dump trucks, land purchases, this adds some definition to what is to appear in front of the Capital Improvements Committee for their review and consideration before it makes its way to the City Council and the budget.
And one point of clarification for this particular item that you have on the agenda. Capital improvements is for guidance only and suggestion. However, in this particular case, we want to define exactly what capital improvements is looking at on a regular basis, just for the simple fact that we're going to have all our capital improvements into the capital improvements budget. And once we get into that particular phase of our budgeting process, it's going to be a little bit more streamlined where we allow capital improvements budget to pull everything together that's over $100,000 and rank those. Those rankings and then come back with recommendations from them, just as P&Z, to you, and you as council vote on up or down, one way or the other. So, again, it's not a law-making body. It is a recommendation-making body. But however, with that, we need some guidelines to focus in on. So to Mr. Christie's point, I want to clarify that to ensure that everybody's on the same page as exactly what the role of the Capital Improvements Committee will be. Questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Derrickson points his finger at me. I know I'm in trouble. Mr. Derrickson?
Brenda had requested that we look at making a couple of additions regarding using Robert's Rules of Order as a suggestion, and also that it be specifically stated that the committee keep minutes of the meetings and file those with the city clerk. And so if someone would make the motion, this is what the motion would be to add to this particular resolution. It would add paragraph 1.3, meeting procedures. A, unless other procedures are adopted by the Capital Improvement Committee, the committee shall use Robert's Rules of Order for meeting procedures. B, the committee shall keep minutes of meetings and file those minutes with the city clerk.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Questions on that particular item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? One abstention. Motion carries 6-0-1 with Mr. Wilson absent for a few minutes. Okay, fair enough. Back to the original resolution. That's where we are at this time. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? No abstention. Motion carries 6-0. Nothing. A motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
Not on that.
Motion carries.